Hey, what's up, everybody? Let me pull up the chat so I can see who's hanging out with me. Feel free to drop something in the chat or comment. Let me know you're here. Bum, 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 bum. So I can minimize that. Got 3 people hanging out. I'll open up a new tab so I can actually see what's going on. Make sure I mute that. Copy that.
Sorry, Lens.
Let's share this out. Alright. Let's see how many people we got hanging with us so far. Got 5 people watching. Hopefully some people that always say that they miss my live streams can join. I noticed in the comments section that I had been neglected for a couple days with traveling last week. There were some people who on Sunday put the kiddies to sleep around 8 o'clock and they wanted me to do it around 7. Well, I went the other way with it. It's 9 o'clock Eastern time, and hopefully the kiddies are in bed and you can hang out with me and you can watch. Oh, sorry. It's a little bit delayed from what I see versus what's streamed, so had to adjust the camera there. But let me know if you can hear me okay. Let me know if the video is a little grainy, or it's probably most likely there's not enough light, but aside from not having enough light, let me know how the sound is. Let me know the quality, if it's skipping any. I'm still looking at, there we go. So I just adjusted the camera. I'm assuming that those of you who are joining me right now have notifications turned on, and that's how you know that I went live. I was going to put something in the inner circle group, but I figured it's not really anything circle related today. I just want to test out the streaming of my MacBook. So I picked up it's an interesting story actually. So I was looking for a new MacBook. Currently I only have the older one for my DJing business, and I was looking for um, something newer. Reason being, last couple of gigs, whenever I would basically go through my routine, so I have a routine every time. So I set up my music, I get things kind of organized for my next gig, and then the week of, I'll kind of go over the plan, kind of like the timeline, the music, all that stuff. Essentially, I have some worksheets. And so I'll go through those the week of, make sure there's no changes, and then kind of like Thursday, Friday, depending on the event, because a lot of people who are getting married do like rehearsals. So I'll finalize things on Thursday or Friday after the rehearsal, make sure there's no changes, and then I'll go through and I'll double check all the music. And the reason I do that is because sometimes I have to download some stuff. Other times I have the music, but there's a bunch of different versions of it, whether there's a clean edit, if there's an intro. So, anyway, I go through the music and I make sure that one, it all exists. So, not just seeing it in the library, but actually playing it. Because if I don't play the music, I don't actually see whether or not it still exists. It's kind of like it gives me the last time I went through and I validated my library what I see. So, my most recent couple gigs, I go through my routine, and a few days before the gig, when I'm checking out all my music, I notice that the CPU meter, which basically tells me how hard my computer's working, was kind of going into the red, which means it's really overworking. And if you have a laptop that's either the fan's constantly running or you have the CPU utilizations going really high, um, that's not a good thing. Either you have too much running or you are in need of a cleanup, or there's some other issues like hardware. Maybe you have to clean it out because it's not getting proper airflow. So long story short, that started happening. So that tells me a couple things. Number one, I need to go through and do a cleanup. I need to check and make sure that there's no blockages. And after that, possibly if it doesn't go away, restore to a previous backup. Um, I don't really make many changes on my computer, so it makes it easier for me to kind of restore it. My music is external, so when I plug that in, that's separate. But because of that, rather than waiting until I'm completely down, I went ahead and started looking for a new MacBook. So because of that, I located a couple potential sellers on Facebook Marketplace, and the very first one that I found was actually a really horrible scammer. Um, a lot of people were very, very quick to jump on a deal, and there are a lot of deals out there that are kind of like, I don't want to say, what's the right term? Too good to be true, but sometimes you get those too good to be true deals that actually work out. Um, but this one was definitely too good to be true. Basically, the specs of this laptop was retail $4,700. Now, clearly they listed it for below 50% of that, and then they lowered it again because on Facebook Marketplace you can go and you can lower your price in a certain increment that Facebook recommends to try and get more attention to it and to help you get it sold. Well, rather than selling it for a reasonable price, especially since it's brand new, just came out like recently, um, I figured I'd throw an offer out there of like 1,200 just to see what they would say. And of course, they didn't even fight me on it. They're like, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So long story short, um, they wanted to sell me a $4,800 laptop for $1,200 and meet me at a police station that didn't exist. And um, when I questioned how I was going to be able to take a look at this new in the box computer, but they had about 8 pictures of it open and being used, and so it threw up some red flags. So the moral of the story is, if it's too good to be true, a lot of times it is. There are some occasions where you'll get a really good deal based on someone's unfortunate circumstance, which leads me to my purchase today. This laptop is about $1,600, and for $1,600, you get a really nice laptop. Um, it turned out that the person selling it already had upgraded to the new one that just came out recently. and they wanted to offload this one to kind of fund some other things. So because they already had another laptop, we went ahead and kind of negotiated the deal from 1,200 down to about $1,000. Um, and ultimately, I was able to get them to meet me closer to where I live, considering I already knew where they lived. Um, you kind of look at the map, you kind of go the opposite direction, a reasonable amount, and then tell them you want to meet somewhere in the middle, and it kind of ends up being closer to you, and it works out really well. So um, if you ever consider that when you're buying something next time on Facebook Marketplace, go ahead and give that a try. Because if you tell somebody where you live, they want to meet in the middle all the time. So kind of go the opposite direction with it a little bit, and then you can kind of get a little bit closer to where you are. And it seems to work really well. So, with that being said, I just wanted to test the live features of this camera, obviously the microphone, and see if I got everything set up properly, because this will probably be what I go live on when we do the giveaway on December 1st. I'm going to post it in the Circle Fans group just because I want to get some more people in here to test it out and say hi. Alright, so posted that. Member reported content. Oh, that's weird. So somebody reported a... Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So somebody reported something in the group, and I don't really think that if you talk about anything non-circle related that it's worthy of being reported. I think it's nice to have some feedback of other things, not just only circle, because in any group that's focused towards whatever the subject may be, if you don't have something to kind of offset the opinion to give people kind of a wider range of things to discuss, then you're really not getting all the pros and cons of whatever that thing is. So, for instance, circle. If people want to talk about infuse or talk about Mio drops or crystal light packets, that kind of benefits the conversation about what the topic is. If you don't want to talk about those alternatives, then you're not really getting a good understanding of the pros and cons of the subject. So, for example, if you're talking about infuse, people look at it as you can add your own flavor. That's a plus. You can um, use their lids, and they have their own flavors, but also you can use any flavor. Well, while that's a pro, the cons are pretty clear. You can't just clean the bottle or the lid. You have to kind of flush the system with water by drinking it. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a video already that I discussed cleaning the inside of your lid, and that's something very simple that is removable and people are missing. So if you're not cleaning your lid properly and you're getting mold or any kind of, you know, bacteria, anything that's stored inside of that lid underneath the O-ring, and you're missing it because you're thinking that the dishwasher's getting it, imagine something that the only way you clean it is by drinking water through it. So there's not really a benefit to having that flexibility of its own lid. You're more looking at what are you giving up in order to get your own custom flavors. I think Circle does a great job with the flavors they have, because number one, 40 plus flavors is a lot of flavors. um, you also have different sweetener options. You have stevia, you have the sucralose, or you have the unsweetened, and you have tons of flavors that you can try out. So when you're going through all of these different comparisons, you really can't get a full idea of what your pros and cons are unless you're comparing it against something. Have you ever been to going on Amazon or Best Buy, and they have a compare button? So when you're going to search for something, let's say something simple as buying an iron, you go on to Amazon, you search for an iron, and you kind of get things based on um, the search algorithm that they put in place. Well, then you can filter it for the rating. You can filter it by price. You can filter it by prime. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can filter that. But the most important thing is, as you scroll down, it'll tell you what other people look for, and it'll give you some comparisons in that price range, in the features and functionality. So without that comparison, you're not really informed on if your purchase is worthwhile. So anytime somebody wants to report something in the group, by all means, go for it. Don't go crazy with just reporting everything just because you want, nothing but circle stuff. I get that. But to me, it's more valuable to have the discussions, have the comparisons, and being able to make an informed decision. I think the other admin of one of the groups made a video about their comparison between Infuse and Circle, or maybe it was just a member. But I watched that video and I got a lot out of it. I'm not an Infuse customer. I don't buy their products. I don't subscribe to anything Infuse. But knowing the differences, the pros and cons, it's helped me to solidify my choice with Circle. And it's the same thing with anything that I buy on Amazon, whether it's something that is based on the customer rating, based on the price, whatever it may be. I make a decision based on a lot of different things. So back to the story of this MacBook. Um, there are a lot of deals out there. People used to go to yard sales and negotiate prices and come home with really cheap stuff. And then with the internet, you got Facebook groups where people would, kind of negotiate things. You'd meet up and you would barter, or you would just outright buy stuff. But we're at a point now where Facebook wants to be the one-stop shop for everything. So Facebook Marketplace, you got to deal with scammers, but there is some really good stuff out there. So it's very important that you make an informed decision, not just based on price, because price can be deceiving. You can think you're getting a really good deal, but you may put yourself in a situation where you're putting your safety and your well-being at risk. So for me, I was able to find somebody who was a legit seller. They had feedback under their profile. They actually had a profile that had content. It wasn't just a freshly made one that day. Um, they wanted to meet in a public place. They knew of a public place that was nearby. They even offered to give me copies of their ID, let me sit down, look through, make sure I was completely satisfied before paying. And then we even worked out ahead of time how we would pay. So there's so many things that go into buying online that if you're not 100% comfortable, don't let the possibility of a good deal sway you from common sense and staying safe. Um, because I could have very much met up with the first person, thought I was getting a stupid deal that was, so undeniably suspicious, but at the same time, I could have let greed take advantage of me and thought maybe there was a way to get, a really, really amazing, unheard of deal, and then put myself in a situation where my safety is the issue. So rather than go through with that, you always want to have in the back of your mind, this is a stranger. You don't know what they're selling. If you don't have pictures and proof of what they're selling, and if they're not willing to meet in a public place where there are lots of people, and if they're not willing to let you look at the product before you buy it, um, immediate red flags. Now there is, the other side of that coin. When you're the seller and you're tired of people scamming you and people showing up and not having money, or worried about somebody not having money and trying to potentially rob you, that's more reason why you want to go to a public place. You want to make sure it's somewhere where you can sit down. You can, kind of give them the same opportunity to look it over as you're getting the opportunity to sell it to them. So there's a lot that goes into selling, and that's why adminning Facebook groups for the last couple of years, it started off really stressful because so many people were new at yard selling on Facebook, that there's always an expectation that the person who has the issue is the right one. So, for example, when somebody's trying to sell something, some groups will tell you you have to go in the order of which people commented. Private messaging doesn't count. You commit to buying it if you say you're interested. You have to wait 48 hours before you move on to the next person unless they say they're not interested any longer. So there's a lot of things that are unnecessary and they hurt the seller. In the groups that I'm in, the rules are simple. Number one, if you're interested, comment, private message, whatever it takes. You want to make sure that you're first in line. Second, make sure you have the money. If you need to negotiate that price, do it immediately. Say, this is what I'm offering. Are you willing to accept it? This is when I can meet, and then follow through. But the most important part about selling in the Facebook groups is that you are not entitled to everything that you see. People see a deal, they think that because they saw it first, they deserve it, and then they don't put the effort in to meet right away. They don't communicate quickly or effectively, or it was just cross posted and they had no idea and they miss out. So they'll throw out a red flag to the admins to say, hey, I wasn't given an opportunity. I was cheated. It wasn't fair. Well, you got to think about the seller. How many people say interested and don't follow through? How many people message you and say, is it available, and then disappear? So, for all the groups that am an administrator, I always side with the seller when it comes to the rules of who gets what and when. So, if the seller chooses out of 20 people who message, one person that was really effective and they could meet, they were local, they had the money, best offer, I'm siding with them. It makes it so much easier. The seller gets their thing sold, they get the most for it, and it was a quick, easy sale. Unfortunately, the groups that don't apply by that, you have a lot of problems. People are arguing in the comments, people are, tagging admins, reporting posts, and it's just noise. At the end of the day, if you're an administrator or a yard sale group, you're basically babysitting. And the last thing you want to do is mediate a problem of someone who wanted to buy something that no longer exists, and then you have to make a decision on what do you really do with that. Are you going to block somebody from the group because they sold their item in a timely manner? You're not going to do that. So again, when you're a seller, there are some things that you need to pay attention to make sure that you're getting the most for what you're selling, you're following the rules of the group, and you're staying safe. But also as a buyer, you've got responsibility to yourself of, are you thinking clearly on how you're going to pick up the item, inspect the item before you hand your money over, to make sure that you're getting what you really think you're getting and it was advertised properly. So my initial reason for going live was just testing out the MacBook, but it kind of evolved into some best practices for Facebook Marketplace, for the yard sale groups, and for the best way to buy and sell in these groups. So I'm hoping that at least some of that is valuable. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop that in the chat. And if you're watching this on Facebook, click on the link so you can get the chat either on the side, which for me it's over here. I'm pretty sure it's over here since it's mirrored. And then if you're on mobile, click on that live chat or scroll to the very bottom to get the live chat. But let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if there's something I can answer for you. Anything that's relative to whether it's a Facebook group for yard sale, for circle, for, in general in marketplace. I've been buying and selling things on Facebook for a couple of years now. I actually got a PlayStation 4 a long time ago for like really dumb cheap. And that was one of those things where initially my common sense was saying, this is way too cheap for it being as new as it is. But in the end, that person was really looking for something different, and we were able to make a good trade. Honestly, if I were to do it again now, I probably would have changed where I met them, because years ago, in front of a McDonald's isn't exactly a public place enough for me. I'd rather be inside somewhere sitting down instead of a parking lot. But it's one of those things where you don't really know until you've gone through the process and you realize the things you could have changed, things that you could have done better. And with computers, it's especially difficult because when you buy a computer from someone, especially if it's an Apple product, you're really at the mercy of them allowing you to go through and check it out. You can have a password that either they don't remember or they can't figure out and they're using a guest account. They could have iCloud or Find My iPad or Find My Mac turned on. And if they didn't log out of that, then you really can't do anything with it outside of what's already logged in. Um, Same thing with phones, iPods, iPads, any Apple product. Um, so those are things you definitely want to check because if you don't have them logged out of iCloud or Find My iPad or Find My Mac, then you can't do anything with it to restore it, to do a cleanup, um, and essentially you're kind of stuck with you really can't use it. So you don't want to buy something unless you've inspected it. When it comes to Windows computers, as long as you have the password or they clear the password, make sure it's an administrator account. Of course, my dog's going to sit here and bark at it. Come here. Yeah, take the chicken bone. So, if you buy a Windows computer, again, not only make sure you have the password, but make sure it's a password to an administrator account. Because if it's not an administrator account, then there's certain things you can't do, like even adding a printer. You can't create new users. You can't control user account control, which allows you to install software. So if they don't give you an administrative account without a password, or if you have the password and it's not an administrator, then you can't do it either. So, but yeah, Kim, to refresh that, if you're trying to find a used Mac, number one, you want to make sure that it's signed out of Find My Mac. And the way that you can do that is you go up to the Apple logo and you go to System Preferences, and then there's an option in there for iCloud. So it's very simple. And from there, it'll tell you sign in, or it's going to have their email address. If you see an email address, ask them to log out. Otherwise, if they don't remember the password, there's no workaround. You can't go to Apple and they'll unlock it. You can't, go to the flea market and have some guy that rented a booth hack it. It doesn't exist. Because the way it works, once it's signed into iCloud, when you go to restore this computer, the first thing that it does is reaches out to the iCloud server and it says, this is locked with a username and password, so you need to sign in and unlock it. So don't assume because somebody says that they can hack an iCloud lock that it's permanent. I know that there's plenty of people out there that say they can do it. There may be a workaround, but I'm telling you right now, it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the problems down the road. And when you do updates to Mac OS, which is the operating system, it's going to ask you to log into your account to do the update. And if that account isn't the one that is signed in to iCloud, it's not going to let you do it, and it's going to lock you out again. So, come here, Luna. Come here. Unfortunately, I have two dogs, which are one really just wants to be left alone and chew on her toy, and the other one doesn't want her to have any toys, so it'll sit here and bark in her face. So, if you want a checklist for that, if you get two dogs, separate them when you go live so they don't bark in your ear. No, but seriously though, so aside from the iCloud for a user, I'm going to put you in your crate.
Tucker.
Come here, Luna. Come here. Luna, come here. Sorry you can't have nice things. All right, go lay down. Go. 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 All right. So aside from Find My Mac, and aside from iCloud, you want to make sure that it's actually what they say it is. So when you click on that Apple and you click on About This Mac, it'll tell you the year because that's important. It's either a early, mid, or late, whether it's 2016, 2018, depending on what model you're buying. They'll say it's a 2013 Retina, blah, blah, blah. So when you go to that Apple and you click on About This Mac, it's going to tell you this is the actual model, and it'll even give you a model number, so you can go online and you can just put that model number in, and it'll give you the entire rundown of all the specs. So that's one really nice thing with Apple. The model number there's no variation of specs. Those are the specs of that model, whether it's the hard drive size, the amount of memory, the type of video, the amount of ports, if it's a newer one with a touch bar like this one. So there's so many different variables that go into each MacBook. The model number will specify exactly what's in that MacBook. So as far as how do you check if they've done a factory reset, that's something that I guess that's kind of subjective. Is that important? If they didn't do a factory reset, to you, is that something that you think is better or worse? For me, I think it's better. I'm getting a fresh, install of Mac OS. There's no garbage software installed. I didn't get any of their, previous search history in Safari. I don't have anything running at startup automatically that I didn't authorize. Um, I don't have someone else's photos that are going to start popping up because at one time they were logged in. There's a lot to go through on a MacBook if you get it secondhand and it's not restored. So let me just run down some of the things that I've already done, and this one was restored. So when you get it fresh out of the box and you open it up and you log into everything, it logs in your email into the Mail app. It logs you into the Photos app. It logs you into FaceTime. It logs you into iMessage. It logs you into a whole rack of things. And the reason it does that is because for your, I guess, benefit and for ease of use, instead of like when you set up a phone or set up a PC, you literally have to log into everything over and over and over again. And it just gets to a point where you're so tired of setting everything up. With a Mac, once you log in, it kind of asks you, do you want to set this for, all the other things? When you go to use specific software that needs access to your camera or microphone, it just simply says, do you want to allow access to microphone? Do you want to allow access to camera? So for me, if it's been freshly restored, that's great because I don't have to worry about undoing or removing access to anything. If it hasn't been restored, I think I would want to restore it. And there's two ways you can do that. One, you can go to um, the system update under system preferences, and there's an option there to go in and reinstall your Mac OS. And I believe there's something else in here if you dive deep enough. So if I go to, let me get rid of Safari. Let me go to Utilities, and that's under the Go menu. And then there is the disk utility, but I don't think that allows me to reinstall. This just gives me the opportunity to partition the drive, which means I'm going to section out a piece of the total amount and kind of separate them so it would look like I have two drives. But it doesn't give me that option. However, the other simple way, when you turn your computer off and you turn it back on, if you hold down, I believe, the Option key, it gives you the option of choosing which disk you want to install, but also it'll ask you if you want to install over the network. And from there, you can choose reinstall Mac OS. So, yes, they are sweet puppers, but they're butt heads when they have toys. Yeah, so you always figured that's what you would want. I just don't know how to tell. I never bought a used computer. Easiest thing to do, like I said, if you log in and you see a bunch of software installed, like browsers like Firefox and Google Chrome, if when you are opening up something as simple as a document, you'll start seeing recents. So like on a PC, if you open up computer and it gives you the C drive and it'll give you like, a bunch of other stuff in there, network, documents, desktop, all that stuff, you'll see recents. And if there's a bunch of recents, then you know for a fact that it was never reinstalled. On Mac, I'm pretty sure if you open up Finder, recents, yeah, I've got something I installed, and a picture I downloaded, and both of those are in recents. So yeah, there's definitely ways to tell really quickly if it was refreshed. But also, that's one of the things that you can ask the seller. Can you reinstall the operating system? There hasn't been much of an issue with Windows 10 kind of having hacked versions out there or bad product keys. With Windows 7 and Windows Vista, you were kind of like at the mercy of whoever is selling the computer, because there were so many hacked keys out there that after they had been activated so many times, um, they would kind of be blacklisted, and you wouldn't be able to use that key, and it would tell you right away you must provide a valid key in order to activate. Well, with Apple, you don't have that problem because Apple makes the hardware and the software and the operating system, so there's no key or activation. You more or less turn it on, you sign in, and you set it up however you want. So that's pretty much one of the easy things about using the MacBook. As far as preference, go with whatever you're comfortable with, because there's no PC's better than Mac, Mac's better than PC argument so much anymore. There are reasons that people use one or the other, but for me, I'm indifferent. Microsoft pays the bills. Apple helps me to stream and to DJ. Um, so I have reasons for both. Any other questions? Feel free. I know we only got 7 people watching. I know some people have been hopping in and out. But also, if you're watching, like the video. Definitely click the like button. And if you haven't already, click on that subscribe button. While the puppies decide they're going to have a battle of the giants. Luna!
Hey. Stop.
I thought you were giving them a treat. Why don't you give them a treat so they can stop eating?
In there.
They got any more beefy sticks?
Yeah.
Luna! Come here. Come here, crazy. Yeah, Looney. Come here. Come here. Sit down. Sit down. Sit. Hey. I don't want all the licks. There you go. Good girl. That's the Looney girl. Looney girl. Looney girl. Looney girl. There you go. They got some zoomies in them because they haven't really had a lot of time to run around with the garage project going on. So, if there's no other questions, I'm not going to hold y'all hostage. That pretty much covers everything for
Easy.
Apple or PC if you're buying one used. And the same thing goes, like I said, for any of the iPads or iPhones. Just
Easy.
if the person will let you look it over, for the most part, it'll probably be legit. Some people will play stupid, so you got to check anyway. One very important thing is if they give you a serial number or they give you a model number, take the time and make sure that that's really what you're buying. Because it's real easy for me to say, yeah, this is going to be a 2019 13-inch MacBook Pro. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. It's got a terabyte hard drive, blah, blah, blah. And then, Luna, can you let them back out, please? Just let them outside. But if I just take your word for it and I don't actually check, I could pretty much be cheating myself out of it. And from there, if it isn't the right model, I have more room for negotiation. So if I say, you know what, this doesn't actually have a terabyte of storage, it has 256 gig. If it's not 16 gigs of memory, it's only 8. I can do better research and I can give, a better offer. And a lot of times they just want to get rid of it anyway, so they're going to take it or they'll negotiate it. But always look online. Number one, with Apple, if you want to look at the refurb section, you can look at Amazon to find the best pricing. Look on eBay, but look at the sold listings. Don't just look at what's listed, because people can list something $1,000, $10,000 over the actual price, but if nobody buys it, that doesn't mean that that's what you're supposed to pay for it. Um, so always check pricing, and if people are going to nickel and dime you based on how much they could get it online, well, tell them to go ahead and get it online, or go buy it online. It saves you the headache. You're not going to be able to save much more money because that person doesn't want to budge on their price, or just pay that person and save that up a couple $100 or however much. Um, but that's pretty much all the tips that I have. Because for me, I've been through the process so many times. It's really simple. If you're not doing your research, if you're not communicating with the buyer or seller, and if you can't inspect what you're going to buy, or if the person who wants to buy it doesn't want to meet in a public place, or somewhere that both of you feel comfortable, just pass on it. One thing I used to tell people in my barter group: not every item, you're not entitled to buy every item you see. And a lot of people were really, really weren't really receiving that very well, and for good reason. When you see something that you want and it's at a price that you think is really, really, good, then you feel like you're owed. And I get it. I've been there too. I've been really upset because I responded right away. I was in their, inbox, and I had money, and I wasn't going to haggle on price, and I still didn't get it. And I felt kind of slighted because for me, why didn't I get it? In my mind, in all fairness, I should have gotten that item. But then I started realizing that I need to look at it from the seller's perspective, because there's so many people that are wasting their time who are lowballing the price, and they miss out on actual deals. So for me, it's more beneficial to understand not everything you see. You're not entitled to everything you see. That's a really hard thing to learn. It's a really hard thing to practice. Because as an admin, you can say that, and people just have to deal with it. But when you're not an admin and you're actually trying to buy something, it's tough. You know, we have this instant gratification thing about us, that dopamine once we see something we like, and we get that kick of happiness. So those are some tips to kind of take with you when you're in these yard sale groups. Make sure that you're safe. You're not entitled to everything that you see, and do your research, and that'll help you save money, buy something, and inspect the item so you're getting what you're getting before you spend the money. I used to always see in these groups, people would say, I was ripped off, I was robbed, I was taken for a fool. And when you get down to what actually happened, they didn't inspect the item, they didn't ask for pictures, they took somebody's word for it. Sometimes it blows my mind, it was a porch pickup, so they expected somebody to just pick it up off the porch and leave the money. It's 2019. Those days are long gone where we can trust everybody. And I don't even know if there ever was a day where you could trust everybody, but today definitely ain't the one. People don't receive negativity very well. Look at all the blasts on the Circle's helpers get. Yeah, so Circle is a very interesting community because it was built slowly through people who shared an interest and overall are trying to get a very positive outcome. Um, some communities grow really quickly, and you end up with a lot of trolls, a lot of negativity, a lot of problems, complaints. And in Circle Fans, it's been my goal to make sure that people are sharing information, sticking to the facts, and asking for help if they need it. I want a lot of stuff I see, then I have to tell myself to sit down. I do not have the money for that. Well, that's another thing. You surely can't be window shopping when you're dealing with people who are selling stuff, because number one, you're going to give yourself a bad reputation, especially in Facebook Marketplace, where they can report you. They can give you a negative seller reputation. And then when it comes time for somebody to buy something from you, you're going to lose all those potential people to want to buy it because you've been, more or less window shopping, flaking, and they're not going to take you seriously. I kind of lucked out on the iPad that I recently purchased, because that iPad I got for a steal as well. It came with a keyboard case, which didn't even expect. It didn't have the right charger, but I had one anyway, so it worked out. And overall, the person that was selling it, if it hadn't have been for them meeting in a public place and letting me take a look at it beforehand, sending me video of them logging it out of iCloud, I probably would have passed on it. The person, of course, their work history was at the Krusty Krab, which I don't understand why people put that as their work experience still. Like, I get it, it was funny for a little while, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. People still in high school creating Facebook accounts and they work at the Krusty Krab. But to me, if you're selling something and it says you work at the Krusty Krab, I'm kind of already turned off of, wanting to buy that from you. The next thing, if you have a profile that doesn't have any pictures or only has one post or was created recently, it's another red flag. But again, you got to make an informed decision. You got to do the research. You got to ask questions, and it might just turn out to be a really good deal. So, um, it could go both ways. You just have to put all the facts together and decide for yourself: is the risk worth the reward? So, Craigslist used to be notorious for that because you really didn't know. I could go on Craigslist, create an account, I could post a bunch of pictures, and I could wait for responses. And I didn't even have to own an item or post pictures of the item that I actually have. I can go on Google and just pull up pictures. I don't know how much has changed with Craigslist. I haven't bought anything off Craigslist in a while, but it still exists. So they're definitely doing something. And, people are kind of less talking about the dangers of Craigslist so much anymore. And I guess maybe there are checks and balances in place for that. But, for me, Craigslist, I just never really had any luck with. Other than, bless you, other than, if I really wanted to spend the time communicating through email and getting all the information and meeting somewhere public and, getting to the point where I could buy or sell something. Um, what else? Amazon has a FBA, which is FBA, Fulfillment by Amazon. You can sell things on Amazon directly, and they'll take a percentage. You can create an account, and you can just sell one thing on Amazon, and it'll have you listed as a seller. And then I think they hold the funds until the person receives the item, until a certain amount of sales or whatever. And then, of course, eBay. The very last thing is eBay. There's a lot of ways that people try to scam you, and it's always through direct message. That's why they won't let you share private information when you message back and forth on eBay. Um, so if I put my phone number, my email address, any contact information, it immediately strips it out. Number one's for your protection. I know a lot of people think they're getting a better deal if they go directly to the person. They pay with friends and family instead of goods and services. There's a bunch of different things in there that are very tempting. But remember, don't let your greed take over, common sense. Drives me, it drives me butts. I'm guessing that's supposed to say it drives me nuts. For sale, blah blah blah. Only put stock photo. I get putting a stock photo, but also include real life photos. So maybe like 5 years ago, or even, not even 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago or more, I completely understand not seeing real photos on Craigslist or eBay because not everybody had a mobile phone that could upload to eBay or to Facebook or to Craigslist. So you'd have to have a digital camera or a webcam, take a picture, save it to your computer, upload it that way. So yeah, I get it back then, sure, but nowadays you literally have apps called Let Go and whatever the other one is, and you basically take a picture with the app. It even puts a description in there for you if it's something that it recognizes. Sometimes it's funny because it'll say box. I really do think that listening to myself talk is why I yawn. But sometimes it'll automatically put the title as the box because even though you're taking a picture of something new in the box, it'll say iPhone box. So you'd have to edit that, um, but with those apps and the ability to take pictures with your phone, there's no excuse for someone saying they can't send you a picture. If somebody says they can't send you a picture because it's still in the box unopened, well, then tell them, I plan on opening the box and logging into whatever it is you're selling before I give you any money. And you can even say, I'm going to go to the bank after I verify everything. And they may push back and say, they're not going to take it out of the box and then you flake on them. That's reasonable. But you got to at least try whatever's the safest for you to make the best decision with your money. So to recap, no matter where you're buying from, use common sense. Don't use the greed of a good deal. Make sure you're going somewhere safe. Make sure that you're asking questions. Make sure you inspect whatever it is that you buy. And then once you are satisfied with whatever it is that you're about to buy, then pay for it. And if you're the seller, make sure that you are communicating all of the things that they're asking, but also make sure that you're protecting yourself and they're not just window shopping or wasting your time. Well, I think my yawning is telling me that it's time for me to go ahead and wrap this up. So, any other questions whatsoever about selling online, about buying online, about what to look for? Taking a pic of the actual box would be better than just a stock pic. No, it's not the greatest, but better than a Google pic. Absolutely. When I see stock photos, I kind of think that they're lazy. I don't think, it's a scam right away. Because some people will. Like, if I'm at work, and let's say I decide, hey, I'm at work and I want to sell something and I'm not home, but I really want to get that exposure. So when I get home, I got some people I can respond back to. I'll find some reasonable images that aren't just stock photos, because the intent is I want them to be interested, but I don't want to wait and lose any interest of people that could potentially want to buy it from now until when I got home. I know that's a very small window, but when you're selling something, especially electronics, that window doesn't stay open very long. You wait a year and you've probably lost half the value of something, depending on what it is. Um, and that's not an exaggeration. You might be able to recoup some of the money that you've spent, but you're not going to get anywhere near what you paid unless you bought it secondhand. Or you got a really good deal on like Black Friday or something. And then, if you've noticed, if you buy something and you want to return it around the holidays, they often will give you the lowest price that it had ever been listed for between Black Friday and New Year's, because they have so many sales in there that maybe you were only online for, an hour or maybe a day. And they don't know if you bought it at that price and you're just returning it without a receipt, um, for more money. So when you're dealing with a brick and mortar store, that's also a good thing to think about. Um, Save your receipt. Take a picture of the receipt. They have it in their system somewhere, but you're better off knowing the details to share with them to find your transaction than you are having them search their history of sales to find your one purchase. Um, and you can even do price matching in certain stores like Best Buy. They'll price match with Amazon as long as it's an in stock item. Um, I think Walmart stopped doing it, but sorry. But there's a lot of places that I shop online and they do price matching. So never just find a price that's better than retail. Go searching to see where other places have it, but just think about where those places are, because you don't want to just go to a random website that says they could sell you something for 50% off. Um, and if you really, really, really want to try your luck, make sure you use a credit card that has like one of those fraud detection or fraud protection things. Because I did buy something that was kind of a really greedy, I should have known better things. And because I used my Capital One card, um, I was able to report it as a suspicious purchase. let them know that I haven't received any tracking, and the website had been getting numerous reports of fraudulent listings, and they took care of it. So I didn't have to do anything. I used to hate the return price when I worked retail like 15 years ago. The ugliness you got was atrocious, but I felt their pain. Yeah, it was like I don't know if it was the outlets or where it was, but I tried to return something, and they said, okay, well if you don't have a receipt, you're gonna get the lowest price it was sold for. And sometimes as the customer, you really think to yourself, did they list it at that price just long enough for it to exist in their system to keep some of that as like a return item fee, or did you miss a better sale and you're having regrets? So even with the brick and mortar stores, go look online. I used to have this mantra where I would go into a Best Buy to shop around, but I would ultimately go online to make my purchases. Um, and that still holds true today for some things, but for other things, Best Buy has good pricing once in a while. But pay attention to your Black Friday ads. There are ones available for Amazon, I think Best Buy. Um, a lot of places are already posting their sales to generate some buzz. So make sure you check that out as well, because right now it's a good time to look at TVs, video game systems, video games, random electronics, and then there's always Cyber Monday, which is my favorite. Sit at my computer, shop, and I'm done. Lots of great deals on like hard drives, computers, flash drives, peripherals, stuff like that. So, any last questions before I go? I'm gonna give you all 4 more minutes. And I really appreciate y'all hanging with me. I know that watching me yawn the last 10 minutes is not that entertaining, but if you haven't already, hit the like button. Definitely appreciate it when y'all like my videos and participate, because it helps me. It lets me know that you like the content. It also lets me know that I'm at least answering questions and helping you with something that maybe you didn't know before. And with all things with this channel, the goal is to share what I know with you so you can make an informed decision. I only want a 9 can mini fridge. I had a few mini fridges. My favorite one, it was actually a partial wine and partial soda um, mini fridge. I mean, this thing was super fancy. The problem is, when you have a super fancy mini fridge, you tend to want to fill it with stuff because you have the space and because it's fancy. So you then just turn into um, you're kind of hoarding sodas and drinks in a mini fridge instead of really purposing it for something like a common room, or if you are out in, let's say, your garage or your workshop, and it's convenient to just have some drinks there. Well, if you're like me and you're not drinking beer every day and you're not drinking sodas, then the mini fridge really doesn't have all that much purpose for you anymore, unless you want to store some, cold water bottles. Um, that's kind of where it is. You have to decide what the benefit is instead of just buying stuff and then later realizing that you don't have a need for it. Um, Paula Jarreau, great information. Thanks. Is it Jarreau? Can't remember. I think I got it right a couple of times and then I screwed it up. But yeah, that's basically what I wanted to share. I really appreciate everybody taking the time to hang out, help me test out the camera, the audio, share some tips on how to shop in Facebook groups, how to shop in Marketplace, all that stuff. I only want it from my grandson's office because they keep taking. I have a small mini fridge in the kitchen that holds bottled water, juice boxes, and keeps them room in my main fridge. So there you go. You have a purpose for it. when you're kind of separating some things out, so if you want the kids to be able to get the juice boxes and hold some water bottles and allows you to put more food in there for little ones, then absolutely. Yes, I got it right. That's my special talent. I can figure out pronunciations of names and stuff. But then my bigger talent is forgetting people's names and pronunciations. So we'll try it again next time. So that's been an hour. Yeah, I finally got it right. Um, you know, an hour is a lot of people's time, so I don't want to take up too much more time of people. If you haven't already subscribed, which by now I'm pretty sure all of you have, but if you haven't, click on that subscription button down in the bottom. I hope I'm pointing to the right spot. If I'm not, go to the other side. Just a picture of me with my hat, my emoji or Animoji or whatever it is. Um, because if you're supporting my channel, I have no problem answering questions and giving back. That's why that Circle Fans holiday giveaway that is ending December 1st. I can't wait to give that away. We're up to 4 boxes, tons of stuff, like 140 sips, something like that. Lots of bottles, all kind of stuff. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and check that out in the Circle Fans group. There's posts everywhere, or check out this channel. There's lots of lots of videos under the Circle playlist, and then you can see all about what the changes were and some of my other live feeds where I go over what exactly is happening with the giveaway. And if you don't know already, December 1st, going to go live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't have to be present to win. And we do have one more slot available um, on the live wheel. So next time I go live, maybe I'll pick somebody to add to the wheel. But for now, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for liking and subscribing. Drop some comments below if you're watching this later and not live. And I will see y'all on the next one. Bye bye.